For months, the world has watched a repetitive cycle, reports of progress in Cairo or Doha, followed by a sudden collapse and renewed fighting. This isn't just bad luck. It is a calculated collision of existential goals. While the headlines focus on tactical disagreements, the truth lies in the red lines that neither side is willing to cross. Since October 2023, we have seen over 10 major negotiation rounds fall apart. Why does every breakthrough turn into a breakdown? To understand the current stalemate, we must look beyond the rhetoric of total victory or resistance and examine the specific conflicting demands that make a permanent signature nearly impossible in the current climate.
At the heart of the collapse is a fundamental disagreement over what happens after the guns fall silent. Israel demands the release of the 101 remaining hostages as a prerequisite for any pause, while Hamas insists that any hostage release must be tied to a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Specifically, the Philadelphia Corridor, a narrow 14-kilometer stretch of land, has become the ultimate sticking point. Israel views it as a lifeline for smuggling that must be controlled, while Hamas views any IDF presence there as a continuation of the occupation. This 14-kilometer stretch of sand is effectively holding up the peace of 2 million people.
Peace deals aren't just about stopping the bombs. They're about who picks up the trash and runs the schools the next day. There is currently no agreed-upon plan for civil administration. Israel refuses to allow Hamas any role in future governance, but also rejects the Palestinian Authority taking over. This leaves a vacuum. International mediators have proposed various technocratic governments, but without a clear security guarantor, no one is willing to step in. For the 2.3 million residents of Gaza, the lack of a day-after plan means that even a temporary ceasefire is just a countdown to the next war.
We cannot ignore the domestic survival of the leaders involved. For Prime Minister Netanyahu, his right-wing coalition partners have threatened to collapse the government if a deal is signed that they perceive as a surrender. On the other side, Yahya Sinwar's survival is tied to Hamas remaining a military force.
Humanitarian aid has unfortunately become a bargaining chip rather than a moral imperative. With 90% of the population displaced, the pressure on Hamas to accept a deal is massive. Conversely, the international community's pressure on Israel to increase aid flow often fluctuates based on the status of the talks. Negotiators have tried to use the calories per day and truck counts as leverage. However, using the survival of 2.3 million civilians as a negotiation tactic often backfires, deepening the trust deficit and making both sides more cynical about the other's intentions.
To understand today, we must look at the last 30 years. Since the 1993 Oslo Accords, both sides have felt burned by previous peace deals. Israel points to the 2005 withdrawal from Gaza as a precursor to the current conflict, while Palestinians point to the continued expansion of settlements and the blockade as proof that diplomacy yields nothing. This deep-seated trust deficit means that every clause in a potential agreement is scrutinized for hidden traps. When you don't believe the other side will honor the deal, you don't sign the deal. You prepare for the next round of fighting.
So, is peace impossible? Not necessarily, but it requires a grand bargain that goes beyond a simple ceasefire. It requires a multinational security force to bridge the day-after gap, a clear political horizon for a two-state solution to satisfy Palestinian aspirations, and ironclad security guarantees for Israel. Until the mediators, the US, Qatar, and Egypt, can align the internal politics of both parties with these regional realities, the deals will continue to collapse. The truth is, peace isn't just the absence of war. It's the presence of a viable alternative that both sides fear losing more than they fear the conflict itself.